Hi, everyone. Rachel from PTO Today here, and we're thrilled to have our friends at Get Movin Fundraising back with us again for another live chat. Today, we'll be talking about how to secure grants and business sponsorships. Maggie and Lisa from Get Movin Fundraising will be sharing some great insider tips. Whether you're just getting started or looking for fresh ideas, you'll learn simple, actionable strategies you can use right away, just in time for the start of the new school year. Hi, ladies.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Do you guys want to take a second to explain what you guys do at Get Movin?
Yeah, Lisa, why don't you start?
Sure. I am a personal event coach at Get Movin', so I help schools across the country raise a lot of money, and I'm really excited to be on my very first webinar, so bear with me. But we have a lot of great information, so I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. And then I'm Maggie. I've been on these many times. Me and Rachel are old busties by this point. So I might be a familiar face here. I'm the marketing director at Get Movin Fundraising. And just a little overview for the company for anybody who doesn't know. We are made of former as well as current parent group leaders. And our goal is to help other parent groups run fun and profitable fundraising events.
Awesome. So for everyone watching live, if you have a question, drop it in the comments and we'll try to get to them all at the end of the chat. This chat will also be available to rewatch on the PTO Today YouTube channel. So let's dive in. So what are some relevant grant opportunities parent group leaders should be aware of for the 2025-2026 school year?
Yeah, well, to kick things off, I do want to mention that we have a grant guide we've put together at Get Movin', so you can see a nice visual of it right there. I think we'll also drop a link to that in the chat if you're on Facebook so that you can access that as well. One thing to keep in mind for grants is they usually come with guidelines for how the funds can be used. So in our guide, we've broken them down into 3 categories. You have technology, health, and then sort of a catch-all, this kind of general education programs, the things that sort of fund everybody else if you don't have something specific you're looking funding for. So you can see here we've highlighted just a few opportunities. The first one is Cars for Kids grants. That's Cars with a K. This is a small grant program. It awards between $500 to $2,000 to registered 501c3 organizations, which many parent groups qualify as. The second one there is Good Sports. So the thing about grants is they're not always money, although we love that, right? Some of them are in-kind donations or their product or, materials. So Good Sports, they have something where they provide schools with new sports or gym equipment. The next application deadline for this is November 30th. So if you're looking to bring in some gym equipment for the spring, go ahead and apply to this one right now. You still have time. And then the last one is Walmart's Spark Good Initiative. So I really like this one. They have grants between $250 and $5,000. And then I will go ahead and pass it off to Lisa to talk about another grant that's very close and dear to our hearts at Get Movin'.
Absolutely. The Dream Team Grant is something we launched shortly after COVID as a way to support schools in a really meaningful way. It's designed for volunteer groups who have a dream project but may not have the funding available to see it through. Mm-hmm. The grant is $3,500 and it's open to all K through 12 schools in the US. You don't have to be a Get Movin' customer to apply for this. But if you do want to apply, it's a really simple form. It's right on our website, getmovinfundraising.com/dreamteam. And entries are open now through November 30th. And the winner will be notified in February of 2026. We've had some really amazing schools win over the last years. In 2022, we had a school in Alaska who won the grant, and they were finally able to hold the STEM night that they'd always been dreaming about. In 2023, an inner city school used the funds to buy gym equipment for their brand new gymnasium. And then just last year, we had a Title I school use the grant to help families cover costs for things like field trips, so students could participate without any financial barriers. Right. So that's really the heart of the Dream Team Grant, giving schools the chance to bring these kind of impactful ideas to life. And like the other opportunities Maggie mentioned, it never hurts to apply. You mm-hmm. never know when your school's dream project could be the one chosen.
That's right.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So how can a volunteer get started with grant writing if they have no prior experience?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? If you're a newbie to this, where do you start? So, my first piece of advice is to actually set up a meeting. So, a planning session with your parent group. Definitely invite your treasurer to this. They're a very important piece of the grant application process. At that meeting, the goal is to come prepared with a little bit of research, and we'll kind of talk about that later, sort of where to find grant opportunities. But you want to be looking at not just the national level, which is what our grant guide covers, because we're trying to help as many schools as possible. But for specific for your school, also the state level as well as your local area. Um, then at this meeting, what you want to do is basically decide which grants you want to apply for, right? So that's why you want to meet with your group, kind of go through them, debate which makes sense, which don't. And you want to be specific for what you're trying to fund. So it's very important at this meeting that you kind of have an idea. Are you trying to get new computers for your lab? Are you trying to build an outdoor classroom? That was a huge one for the Dream Team grant, by the way. We had a ton of submissions for that. So that I'm just bringing that up because there's, remember, categories for grants. So that can kind of filter out, but it could also open the door to some opportunities as well. Once you have that, you want to list out deadlines and review the application requirements, and then go ahead and delegate. So decide, Lisa's going to go ahead and get the budget, the pictures. I'm going to write the grant application, right? Everybody kind of knows who's going to do what. Once you've done that, you'll be able to walk away with a calendar of deadlines and a clear plan of who is doing what. Again, you want to have a plan before you kind of just jump right in. When it comes to actually writing your application, every grant is going to be a little different. We all kind of know this going in. One key thing is sometimes you can see past entries, which really helps. It gives you kind of a clear guideline on tone, on length, and on information to include. Another thing is to use AI, the buzzword of the year. We all love AI, myself included. A few tools I recommend, they're weird names. Claude is one, Jasper, and then you kind of have your big guys. You have Gemini, and then our OG ChatGPT. It's a great place to start. Another one is Perplexity. If you haven't heard of that, that's really good for research. So if you're trying to find out more about like a funding organization's mission, Perplexity could help with that as well. So before you open chat, what you want to do is from your planning session, you want to get some data points. So what are you trying to fund? Who's funding the grant? Like, what's the grant application called? What's the mission of the funding organization? And then basically what you do is you put all of this data into chat and you say, hey, do your thing, write me a draft application. And then what you'll have from there, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be better than a blank page, right? So you'll have some place to start. So AI is great. It's going to save you a lot of time. But Lisa, go ahead and tell us about some other universal strategies to use.
And you're right, Maggie, every grant does look a little different, but there are definitely strategies that work across the board. The first is to find a shared interest, a mission alignment, if you will, between your school project and the organization offering the grant. If their focus is on health and you're pitching a wellness initiative, make that connection crystal clear. And secondly, focus on the impact. Grants aren't just about funding a project. They're about showing how that project will create change in an area that the company or the foundation already cares about. And third, tell a story. Put some character behind it. Pair the numbers with a real world example so the grant provider can see the difference that their gift would make. For example, if you're applying for a technology grant, don't just say you need iPads, right? Share how many iPads you could buy and then explain how they would help. Maybe 60% of your students could access coursework more efficiently and keep up with their peers. That kind of like concrete outcome backed up with a story makes your application that much stronger. So whether you're going after a small local grant or a national grant, focusing on those those strategies, the shared interest, the impact, and the storytelling, that really applies everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Those are really great tips. And thanks for telling us about some of those AI alternatives as well. So which businesses and brands offer donation programs for schools, and how can parent groups find them?
Yeah, so up until now, you've been talking solely about grants. So I just want to start by kind of defining the difference between those and sponsorship. So grants are formal applications for funding from a foundation, a company, or sometimes a government organization. Business sponsors, on the other hand, are often local businesses most times. Sometimes they can be national, but they're local businesses or local chains of a national brand supporting an already existing program or event in exchange for recognition. So for example, like their logo on a Fun Run t-shirt, that's a real popular incentive there. And then you also have matching gifts that I just want to mention because they're, again, kind of slightly different. This is when an employer matches a donation an employee makes. So all of a sudden a $50 donation becomes $100, which, like, who doesn't love that math, right? So like matching gift programs are also really awesome to look into. So in our grant guide, we actually include a list of 8 big name brands that run donation programs. I'll list a few of them, and then I'm going to give it over to Lisa to name a couple more, but you can see kind of the logos on here. So you get the picture if you want to screenshot this or review it later. These are some brands that have some giving programs. So Oriental Trading Company, they have a really nice one. They also have a loyalty program. So even if you are like spending money on the little tchotchkes or like whatever you're trying to buy for your fun run incentives, make sure you're checking out their loyalty program because you can get some like kind of credits back for that. And then your local grocery chains is a really big one. So I personally have Publix and Wegmans by me. I'm Southeast area, but whichever local, grocery chains you have by you, they often have an online donation request form. And then similar to the warehouse donation, so Costco is a great one. You can submit a request to your local warehouse, and they'll often support schools in your area. And the best way for parent groups to find these opportunities is to check the website. Seems obvious, but you're looking for a page that's says community giving or donations or sometimes philanthropy. Those are kind of the keywords that you're looking for. If you don't want to do that, go into the store. I know it can be nerve-wracking, but go into the store, ask to speak to the manager, and just ask if they have a sponsorship program, kind of explain where you're coming from. Making that personal connection can really go a long way. And then Lisa, why don't you go ahead and go through some of the other opportunities here?
Right. Another way to think about this is to look at the types of businesses and brands that schools and their families already interact with. For example, Whole Foods has a garden grant program, and that supports edible learning gardens at K through 12 schools in the US and Canada. And the goal there is to connect kids with food, promote healthy eating, and tie gardening experiences directly into the curriculum. Then think about the basics, school supplies, right? Mead is a big name in school supplies, and they have a donation program. And where do most families go to buy supplies? Like you mentioned, stores like Walmart, Target, Staples, all of which have community giving programs or local grants that schools can apply for. Mm-hmm. So what you really want to do is start thinking about what your school already uses and where families already shop, then look up the community giving or foundation pages for those companies.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes a business sponsorship request stand out to local companies?
Yeah, well, like I said, going in there, making a personal, like shaking a hand, that's going to make the best impact because you're having that sort of like one-to-one connection, and you'll be more memorable that way. But of course, that's not always realistic, especially if you're trying to hit up a lot of businesses. So if you're doing a letter, which is the next best option, whether that's something that's given to them in person or you're emailing it. The thing is, you want to make it personal and you want to make it customized. So there are some generic letters out there. They're not necessarily going to grab attention. So you want to make sure that you're kind of tailoring it to the business that you're requesting from. I do want to mention schools that are using our platform called FundHub. We actually have a free, completely customizable template to help with this. It's part of our event toolbox, which has just galore of resources for our parent group leaders. But a business sponsor request template is in there as well. You can use that. You open it in Canva. Most of us have experience using Canva by now. You can add in your school logo, your specifics, but you're just, again, going back to AI, you're not having to start from scratch. And so that's a big help for our parent group leaders. And then when you're making a sponsorship request, you want to make sure, kind of going back to what Lisa said about the grant applications, bringing in statistics, and story. So those are the two big S words that you need to remember, whether you're applying for a grant or you're asking a business for a monetary donation. Statistics and story, they go a long way. So for example, you could say, last year's fun run, which you supported, you want to make sure you remind them if they've supported you in the past. We raised 20,000. We funded a new playground. This year, we're hoping to expand it with such and such. What's the goal of your fundraiser? And with your support, we can make it happen, right? You're kind of looping them so they feel that they're part of the story. That's kind of why you want to bring in story there too. And then, like I said, don't underestimate the power of personal connection. If someone on your team has a relationship with a business, they work for a business, they own a business, that's gold. Maybe they're just a parent at the school or the company supported a past event. Always mention that in your letter or your personal conversation.
Right. Like Maggie mentioned, FundHub does give parent groups a lot of support when it comes to finding and securing sponsors. We have built-in tools like dynamic flyers to help you promote the sponsorship opportunities and get families thinking about, like you said, Maggie, who they know in the community. And once you've secured your sponsors, you can highlight them inside your event using the sponsorship showcase, which gives businesses the visibility they love, but also let your families know who in your community is supporting your school.
And that's what you can see there visually in the phone as well, kind of how that shows up in FundHub.
A good way to make the most of those tools in FundHub is by setting up a tiered sponsorship package. Mm-hmm. Instead of just asking a business for a specific dollar amount, you can set up different levels, platinum, gold, bronze, and each tier would come with clear benefits. Like you said, like recognition on your school website, banners, social media shout outs, flyers, or even the fun run t-shirts. Businesses appreciate being able to choose the level that best fits their goals and their budget. Mm-hmm. And then after you do get a business sponsor, that's step one, because beyond that, and Maggie kind of mentioned it, the real key is what you do afterward, how you thank them and build the relationship so they come back year after year to support your school. And that could mean you could host a small thank you event. You could recognize them at a school assembly or spotlight them on your school's social media. That kind of appreciation does go a long way. And one more thing, though, is remember that a business sponsorship does not always have to mean writing a check. The businesses can support schools in creative ways like stocking the teacher's lounge or sponsoring quarterly classroom supplies or even donating snacks for a family event.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So are there specific times of year that are better for seeking grants or sponsorships?
Yeah, right now. So everyone stop what you're doing and go. Yeah, the fall though, really, because like August through November is really the peak season for what we're talking about. We talked about before, Lisa brought up this great point that think of the businesses that sell to families, specifically for school supplies, because those are the ones that are going to want to get that free marketing from supporting your event, right? They get something in turn. They're being able to market their store with their logo to the people that shop there. So right now, businesses as well as corporate grants, even as well, they like to tie it back into kind of the back to school marketing bubble initiative, I guess you could say, which even though we're all back to school by now, it lasts a while. We're still, I'm personally still buying school supplies, so it still hits. So like I said, yeah, between, August through November, that's kind of peak season. And then we have the follow-up, and Lisa can talk about that.
Yeah. Well, no surprise, it is spring. And then from March through May is the second biggest grant season. A lot of funders open their cycles then to provide some funding for some summer or fall projects. Mm-hmm. And a lot of school districts also, that timing kind of aligns with when the school districts and the education foundations are doing their budget planning for the next school year. So it's a natural window for schools and parent groups to apply. Mm-hmm. And the difference for spring is that kind of the types of projects that fit well. Things like outdoor learning spaces, like you talked about, summer programs, arts and enrichment initiatives. Funders love to support projects that are timely and that will have an immediate impact on students that are heading into the next school year.
Yeah.
So what resources or tools are available for students looking to win grants and secure sponsors?
Well, as we already mentioned, FundHub has great built-in tools like the sponsor showcase, the dynamic flyers, and the sponsorship request letter that make it easier to secure and promote local sponsors. And all of this really ties back to our mission at Get Movin' to give schools a fun, healthy, and safe way to raise funds while supporting the well-being of every student. And helping parent group leaders understand grants, sponsors, and even employer match programs that we touched on is part of that mission, because these resources open more doors for schools.
Right.
But beyond what's inside FundHub, there are other tools you can use. A good place to start is right in your own community. Check your school district website or your county and state education department pages, because many post funding opportunities that parents can apply for there. And also community foundations are another excellent option. They usually provide smaller, more accessible grants that schools have a strong chance of winning. And if you're really willing to branch out or kind of going small to big here, there are also national grant databases that make the search process much easier. Sites like GrantWatch, grants.gov, usgrants.org, and Candid, they let you filter by education focus, deadline, or even location. And finally, don't forget about training. We've hosted a number of webinars designed specifically for parent group leaders. And 2 of those are up on YouTube right now. And they walk you step by step through the grant and sponsorship process, so you can feel more confident going in.
And before we take any questions, do you guys have any announcements from Get Movin'?
Yes, of course. A couple of quick reminders before we wrap up. So the first one is something new we're doing for the fall. So it's called the FundHub Family Raffle. So if your school is hosting your fundraiser on FundHub and there's still absolutely time to sign up for fall or even get ahead for spring, remember we support everything from turkey trots to foam fun runs, all of the fun stuff. If you're hosting an event and you want to raise money with it, give us a call. But basically, for schools that are using FundHub, families can automatically qualify for this really cool raffle. So how it works is once a student is registered on FundHub, they've received at least one donation, and their parent or guardian has shared their fundraiser page online, which FundHub makes it super easy to do with just a click of a button. That family is entered into a drawing for a $500 gift card to their choice of either Target, Amazon, or Costco, which I would love to personally win $500 to Target. So I wish I could do this, but I can't because I work there. This is just a simple way to kind of reward participation from families, encourage early registration, which we all know is really important for fundraisers, and just give families like an extra reason to share your fundraiser online. So that's something we have for the fall, and it's just for schools that are utilizing FundHub. So kind of a cool thing I wanted to bring up here. And then again, Dream Team. I mean, I know we already brought it up, but it's worth bringing up again. $3,500 available to help one school bring an idea to life. Applications are open through November 30th, and it's already open. So like it's already live. You can go ahead and apply today if you want to. And if you'd like to learn more about either of these opportunities, you can just visit our website or, of course, just send us a message online.
Okay, great. So let's get to, we do have a few questions that came in. One is, if this person has a PTO that covers about 6 schools, and some of the schools are unable to ask directly for donations, they want to know if you have any tips for like a PTO set up that way.
Can't ask donations like from their families or from businesses?
That's what it kind of sounded like, that they're not allowed to directly ask for fundraising.
Yeah, like directly fundraise maybe. Well, I would look into if they could get sponsorships then, because sometimes that is kind of a workaround if there are limitations in your district and you're unable to have a fundraising event where you're kind of doing the crowdfunding strategy and getting donations from individuals. Sometimes then going to businesses and even mentioning that limitation is a really good idea, because then you can still bring some funds into your school through sponsorships.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and she did clarify they're not allowed to ask directly to the parents. So that's good, because it's a Title I. Also, someone wanted to know where they could get a download of these slides, or you could make them available.
Yeah, we can make the slides available just on their own. I mean, obviously, if you want to hear our beautiful voices again, you can watch the live on YouTube. But yeah, we can provide just the visuals. We'll do that through our Facebook page. So go ahead and go to Get Movin Fundraising. That's our Facebook page. And we'll make sure to do either an album or a post that just has the visuals if you just want to kind of go back and see the info that we've provided here.
Okay, great. And then someone just had a question if you happen to know of anyone who would donate instead of money, but maybe food for parent-teacher conferences, stuff like that. If you knew of any like national.
I mean, Lisa, I would say those grocery store chains.
Yeah, exactly. Joe, go to your local grocery store. Maybe they know your face and you can make that connection there. Go to the place you go all the time and just, have it all written out and have a clear idea of what you need, or even just a little bit, hey, can you give me a case of water for this meeting and move on to a different place?
Or the warehouses as well. So like Costco, Lowe's, they oftentimes will support schools, especially in their local area. And they obviously have more. They have more stuff. They have a whole warehouse.
Everything's big.
They can give you some water. Yeah. That'd be what I would recommend though.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's all the time we have for those questions. If you guys are rewatching it or you do have more questions, feel free to post them in the comment and we will tag Get Movin to see if they can get some answers for you guys. And we just want to thank everyone for watching today. And thank you, Get Movin, again for joining us today for this live stream. We'll be doing another live chat with them next month, so make sure to stay tuned for details on that. And don't forget to go follow Get Movin over on their socials. And you can also go to getmovinfundraising.com to get more information.
Awesome.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Rachel.